There is a field bathed in sunlight, and you, Sagittarius, are walking between rows of ripe strawberries, your hand gently reaching for each sweet fruit, until you touch one white strawberry, unripe, colorless, scentless. And then, a wave of unease washes over you. No one says anything, but you know, somewhere out there is an eye watching you. Not the eye of a person, but the eye of God. So, why would God send Sagittarius an intuition in a moment that seemed the most peaceful? And what hides behind that unripe fruit, a person or a plan? We are about to step into the very first warning God whispered into your intuition. There's something quite strange that Sagittarius tends to forget. That is, God has never warned you by shouting. He doesn't send thunder. He doesn't tear the sky open to stop you. Instead, he whispers, a vague stirring in your chest, a sharp pull in your gut the moment you enter a certain room, a glance you accidentally catch, and somehow, you just don't fully trust it. A dream in the middle of the night, with no name, no shape, no reason, but it keeps you up till morning. That is how God speaks to Sagittarius. And the question is, are you listening? I believe intuition is the most ancient language between the human soul and the divine. And even though we call ourselves awakened souls, we are still so quick to dismiss that inner voice, all for the sake of what sounds rational. I've done it too. I felt that something's not right sensation standing in front of someone, but because I didn't want to judge them too soon, because I cared about them, because I thought I was overreacting, I smiled and I let them into my life. The result? I don't need to say it. You already know. Sagittarius is one of the zodiac signs with the sharpest intuition, and yet, one of the most likely to betray it. Because you don't want to doubt others, because you believe deeply in your power to fix the world, because you forgive too easily, sometimes far too soon. But there are whispers you are not meant to ignore. There are warnings you are not meant to understand, but to stop for. Because when God speaks through your heart, what he needs is not your prayer, but your action. You do not need to see in order to believe, but believe in what I have planted in your intuition. Think back to the last time you felt anxious for no clear reason. You didn't see anything specific. There was no evidence, only a feeling. Did you trust it? Did you stop? Or did you keep walking forward? Did you turn away? Or did you smile and open your heart again? There's a truth that's not easy to hear, but it must be said. Not everything that comes into your life is light. Some souls carry darkness, but they arrive wearing charm, gentleness, and a sorrow so soft it draws out your compassion. And that's when the real test begins. Do you trust the appearance or your intuition? An elder once told me, God doesn't test you through math exams. He tests you through the moments you must say no and feel guilty about it afterward. And maybe the test Sagittarius is facing right now is this: the courage to say no, even when there's no proof. Even when the other person seems to be in need. Even when you might be their last hope. But if your intuition says something's wrong, then honor it. Because no one but you will bear the consequence if you're wrong. And no one but God will remain if you choose to believe in the voice of your soul. A friend of mine, a Sagittarius, once told me she let an acquaintance stay in her home for a few weeks. She felt something was off from the very first day. In that person's eyes, in the way they moved through her personal space. But thinking she was being too harsh, she said nothing. By the third week, her bank account was compromised. No one could prove anything, but she understood. God had warned me from that very first look. Have you ever heard something without using your ears? A signal you couldn't explain, but still remember to this day? You don't need to share the details, just leave a quiet affirmation in the comments. I know that feeling, and you'll see you are not alone. Because sometimes, the one who knocks on your door isn't coming for help. They've come to take your peace, to take your light, to take the innocence you've been working so hard to protect. And the most terrifying thing is, they often arrive when you are most open. Some people step into your life with the softest smile, but if you look deeper, you'll see it's not light they carry, but hunger disguised as gentleness. And you'll find yourself asking, why would God send them, right when I'm finally learning to trust again? Are you ready? Have you ever met someone whose one single glance made you want to reach out and protect them, even if you didn't know why? their voice warm enough to make you open your heart. The way they gently touched your loneliness made you believe you'd finally found resonance. But after a while, you began to feel tired. Not because of love, but because you were having to become a flame for someone else to warm themselves by. Sagittarius is a symbol of radiant freedom and generosity. You can forgive quickly, you can love with your whole heart, and you often give your trust just because you see a broken piece of soul in someone and think, maybe I can help them come back to life. But God is still teaching you a lesson, one that is gentle yet firm. Not everyone who comes to you is seeking healing. Some are here only to drain you. They don't lie, but they're not truthful either. They don't beg, but they always make you feel like you should give. They never say what they need, but make you believe that if you don't help, you're the one failing them. And slowly, you begin to trade away. Your time, your sleep, your personal boundaries, your trust in your own intuition. Someone once told me, I don't know if I'm in love or if I'm trying to save someone. And that is the fine line many Sagittarians walk, because you think if I step back, if I don't stay, they might fall apart. But have you ever asked yourself, have they ever stood there for you? Some people don't come to love you, they come to consume you. They don't care about your dreams, they only care about the energy you carry. Your trust, your light, the one you fought to restore after every breakdown. God sends them, not to punish, but to teach, to show you that being kind doesn't mean being available to everyone, that even compassion must have locks, that sometimes saying no to a wounded soul is the most loving act, if you can see they're devouring themselves from within. A question for you, gentle, quiet, but please answer with honesty. Would you dare place your hand over your heart and say to God, something about this doesn't feel right. Please help me set a boundary. I'm not asking what happened after that. I only want to know, were you brave enough to admit you were not okay? So many Sagittarius souls keep smiling, trying to look strong, walking forward with faith in the light ahead. But even light needs to be recharged, and you can't keep shining if you're running on empty. There is something sacred that happens when you learn to say no. It's not just a refusal to someone else. It is a divine affirmation to your own soul. I am choosing peace. You are not a bottomless well for anyone to draw from. You are a soul with limits, and that is precisely why you are worthy of being loved truly, without conditions, without being used. If this part touches something in you, I invite you to pause, and in the comments write, I'm learning to set boundaries. Write it so God sees it, so you see it, so your soul hears it, clearly, courageously, and sacredly. Because there will be moments when you'll need to remember everything you once forgave, just so you don't repeat it again. And when the one wearing the mask enters, you won't need to prove they're lying, you'll already know, because your intuition has been trained by God. Let's explore next how God reveals the truth of someone's face through the tiniest details you once thought were just coincidence. But those very details may have saved your soul in silence. Have you ever stood before a door, hand already reaching out, and even though you couldn't hear anything, couldn't see anything concrete, you felt something was off inside? And still, you turned the handle. You pushed gently. You walked in. Why? Why do we walk into places even when our hearts are already screaming? Maybe, sometimes we fear being too suspicious more than we fear getting hurt. I believe each soul is a house, a sacred space gifted by God. And every time someone comes near, with their eyes, with a sad story, or with a tender invitation, they are standing at the threshold of that house. They knock. But you are under no obligation to open. Some knock with sobs. Some knock with sweetness that melts your guard. Some knock endlessly, relentlessly, until you feel cruel for not answering. But remember this, Sagittarius, the door should only open when your heart is not afraid. Intuition is the smallest sound God uses to say, be careful. It's not as loud as heartbreak, not as clear as lies. It's just a feeling. But that feeling lingers. Do you know what's beautiful? God never leaves you alone at the door. He places an angel at that threshold, an invisible presence, unseen by others, but you can feel it. And that angel has no authority to decide for you. It only whispers, don't open this door if you are trembling. Discernment begins there, with the courage to pause, to observe, to ask, does this person need me, Or do they just want the light I carry? Am I moved by love or manipulated by guilt? Not everyone who touches your heart is worthy of your trust. Not everyone who makes you feel like a savior is trying to love you. They might say the right things. They might share stories that bring tears to your eyes. But if after everything, you feel smaller, confused, or bound to a role you didn't choose, that's not love. That's a signal. And that signal didn't come from you. It came from God. Ask yourself, am I truly opening this door from faith or from pity? And if the answer makes you hesitate, step back, not to shut the door forever, but to keep your soul safe until real light arrives. I invite you, right now, close your eyes and whisper to God, if I am blind, please help me see. If I'm moved by something untrue, please make it clearer to me. You don't have to become cold, you just need to be clear, to know when to love and when to stay quiet. If this resonates with you, write in the comments, I'm learning to listen before I open my heart. Let others who are learning like you see it, feel it, and know. They are not alone on this journey, because sometimes the door you open doesn't lead to a person, it reopens a karmic loop. One wrong step can bring you back to the very place you once begged to leave. There are things you've known since you were very young. No one taught you to be cautious. No one showed you how to sense the energy in a person. But somehow, you just knew. That was the first gift God gave you. The instinct to recognize what isn't true before you had words to describe it. And once you dare to believe that instinct, that is the beginning of returning to a whole soul. Do you remember when you were just a child and you sensed something was wrong in a room, with a relative, in a story the adults were telling with too many smiles, but something made your skin crawl? You didn't know what to call it. You just said, I don't like that person, or that place scares me. And then you were corrected, told you were too sensitive, told you were rude, told you didn't understand yet, but you saw it clearly, and you were right, even when no one believed you. God was there, and He knew what you were seeing. Some Sagittarius souls grew up in environments where honesty was labeled rebellion. Some children carried powerful spiritual instincts, but stayed silent because they were too different. You never stopped feeling. You only stopped speaking. And over time, you thought you had matured. But in truth, you were just learning how to ignore the sacred inside you. Now, you're an adult. You have reasoning, you have knowledge, you know how to weigh your decisions. But there's one thing you've forgotten. Intuition doesn't need a reason. It doesn't ask for justification. It only asks to be heard. Intuition is the voice of your soul when it speaks without words. And the saddest part is, the older we get, the more we use language to argue against our own soul. Do you remember the last time you ignored your intuition? When you entered a relationship, even though something felt off from the very start? When you said yes to help someone, even though your sleep the night before left a dull ache? When you stayed too long in a place where you knew you were no longer respected? I'm not asking to reopen your pain. I'm asking to help you remember. God warned you. You just stopped believing in the child within you. And you know what's beautiful? That child is still there, still watching, still whispering, still nudging you every time your intuition rises. All it takes is to pause, place your hand over your heart and say, I'm sorry for being silent. I will listen now. If there was ever a time you ignored your intuition and later realized you were right, write in the comments. I saw it, but I didn't believe it. Say no more. God will read that line with you, because there are some things God doesn't let you understand right away. He lets you walk through pain, not to punish you, but to help you realize this. Real love does not exhaust you. And now, we return to a sacred truth. Love is resurrection, not depletion. And because of that, you have the divine right to choose who gets to enter the sanctuary of your heart. Not everyone who comes with a smile brings love. And not everyone who tells a sad story deserves to be saved. Some people appear in your life with teary eyes, a gentle voice, a flurry of thank yous, and everything about them seems lovely, endearing, even pitiable. But your soul whispers something you still don't have words for. There's a strange feeling, as if a thin veil of smoke is hanging between you and the truth. It's like a small crack in a clear mirror, not easy to spot, but enough to blur your reflection when you look directly. God is warning you, not through fear, but through intuition, through a fleeting discomfort when you catch their gaze, through the exhaustion you feel after each encounter, even when nothing wrong happened, through the sense that if you're not careful, you'll lose something, not money, not possessions, but the light inside you. There is a painful truth you must face. With all the honesty you have, the intruder never knocks with a roar. They come bearing gifts. They never arrive like a storm. They come like the sunrise, with promises, with tender glances, with words that make you feel seen in a crowd, with gentle concern, but something about it throws you off balance. And you ask yourself, why am I doubting someone who's being kind? But your soul keeps whispering, not everything that glows is divine light. I once met someone like that, someone who made me feel seen, loved, understood, and I gave more than I should have, not in material things, but in trust, time, and empathy. Until one day, I realized they didn't truly see me. They saw the light in me, to use it for the darkness in them. You see, Sagittarius, some masks are made of broken emotions. They are not cold, not sharp. In fact, they're soft, sorrowful, and make you feel compassion. But that's the most cunning trick, to use your kindness as an open door. Ask yourself, are you feeling drained in a relationship without knowing why? Do you feel guilty if you don't reply to someone's message, even when you owe them nothing? Have you ever felt shame simply for setting a boundary? If yes, know this, you are standing before someone wearing a mask. And God, He never sends you a relationship that requires you to lose yourself to be loved. If you've walked through a relationship and in the end you felt completely depleted, write in the comments, I've learned to recognize real light. And you will realize you are not alone, because somewhere out there are others just like you, who opened a door for a gift and traded their light for something they mistook for love. Sometimes, the greatest lesson doesn't come from betrayal, but from the moment you forgive yourself for believing the wrong person, because light must be protected, not by walls, but by wisdom. And to do that, you must learn to stand, without apologizing for choosing yourself. There's one thing many people with big hearts often do. They apologize for protecting themselves. You say no, then feel guilty. You stay quiet when something feels off. Then ask yourself, was I being too cold? But today, I want to say this clearly, so you can carve it into your heart. You are not selfish for saying no. You are being loyal to God. Because God didn't give you a heart to be misused. He didn't give you light to be drained by others. He didn't gift you intuition so you could ignore it out of fear of disappointing someone. Every time you say no to what is wrong, you are closing the door on Satan and opening the way for divine light to enter. That act, however small, is a silent declaration to the universe. I choose light. I choose wholeness. I choose to guard the sacred place God placed within me. Maybe you've been called hard to reach, cold, emotionless, or too cautious. But the truth is, you've been through the dark, and you know how sacred light is. And that light, not everyone is worthy to touch. Someone once asked me, how do I know if I'm setting a boundary out of love or out of fear? I answered, when it's out of love, you feel peace. When it's out of fear, you feel anxious, uneasy, and the need to explain yourself. So if after saying no, you feel relief, you feel no need to justify, then you've done something beautiful for your soul. You have obeyed God. I invite you right now to begin your sacred trust journal. Write down the times you heard your intuition, the times you followed it and were protected, the times you ignored it, and what you learned. This is not a regular diary. This is the act of a soul walking hand in hand with God. There will be days you feel weak, days you want to forgive too quickly, days you want to open the door just to avoid making someone feel bad. On those days, open your journal. Read every time you knew and you were right. To remember, you are not hard, you are healing. Write in the comments, I'm learning to stand without apologizing, because that's the moment you're growing in the light. And that's how God knows. You're beginning to believe in yourself. After all the lessons, the tears, the self-doubt, one thing has never left you: the gentle eyes of God watching over you every time you choose yourself. In the final blessing, you'll hold your whole journey with forgiveness, clarity, and rebirth. And that blessing is reserved for the soul that dares to return to the original light it once carried. If you're still here, reading these words, It's not just because you're curious, it's because your soul has recognized something familiar. Not everyone is brave enough to look inward, to revisit forgotten intuitions, and forgive themselves for trusting the wrong one. But if you've listened this far, I believe you're entering the most important chapter of your journey, the chapter where you believe you are worthy of protection and worthy of love, without giving up your light. Share what you feel in the comments below, not just to express, but so together we can build a safe space, where God lives in every word that is written. And if this video touched you, leave a heart, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe, so you'll never miss the next whisper from your soul. You are not alone. God has never left you. And every time you choose yourself, you are walking back to Him.